You can see it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's cool.
Wow.
Well, Mercedes is making that car now stop going south.
Oh, yeah.
If it
Yeah.
sensors are going to crash.
I picked out some songs for Sunday, and they some that we very rarely sang, and maybe we don't know them or whatever, but I thought we would just kind of touch on them tonight, and then on Sunday, maybe if everybody remembers them, I have at least a little backup. So now these are in the 400, so let's see, I got 444, 442, and 436. Let's go with the that's a good one too. My Jesus, I love you. I love thee. Let's go with well, let's try to do all three of them because the tape's only about a half hour long. So let's start with 444 and work our way back.
You might be saying so.
Well, this is I always thought this was a good one to sing right before the communion, try to get our mind set. And but I mean, it's not a very difficult song. So after we go through it one time, we'll try to do all three verses. That way, we'll get the hang of it after the first verse. Okay, are we ready? There was one who was willing to die in my stead, that a soul so unworthy might live, and the path to the cross he was willing to tread, all the sins of my life to forgive. They are nailed to the cross, they are nailed to the cross. Oh, what much he was willing to bear, with what anguish and loss Jesus went to the cross, but he carried my sin with him there. He is tender and loving, patient with me, while he cleanses my heart of its dross. But there's no condemnation. Why, no, I am free, that my sins all nailed to the cross. They are nailed to the cross. They are nailed to the cross. Oh, how much he was willing to bear, with what anguish and loss Jesus went to the cross, but he carried my sin with him there. I will cling to my Savior and never depart. I will joyfully turn each day. with a song on my heart and a song in my heart, that my sins have been taken away. They are nailed to the cross. They are nailed to the cross. Oh, how much He was willing to bear, with all anguish and loss. Jesus went to the cross, but He carried my sin with Him there. It takes a little getting used to. I'm still not used to it, but it's a really nice song to get us in the mood for the Lord's Supper. 442. Anybody know this one? Well, maybe the computer does. Okay, we'll try this one. My faith looks up to Thee, Thou Lamb of Calvary, Savior divine. Now hear me while I pray, take all my guilt away. Oh, let me from this day be wholly thine. May Thy rich grace impart strength to my fainting heart, my zeal inspire. As Thou hast died for me, oh, let my love to Thee, pure, warm, and changeless, be a living fire. When life's dark maze I tread, and griefs around me spread, be Thou my guide. Bid darkness turn to day, wipe sorrow's tears away. Lord, let me ever stray from Thee aside. When ends life's transient dream, when death's cold southern stream shall o'er me roll, blessed Savior, then in love, fear and distrust remove. Oh, very safe above the ransom soul. All right. That's the pipes here. Number 436. We'll just do the first and last if we know it. Do we know it?
We're still
436.
We're still there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We'll do first and last, and then we'll have prayer, and then get into dinosaurs tonight. John is so looking forward to dinosaurs. All right. Nearer, still nearer, close to Thy heart, Draw me, my Savior, so precious now. Fold me, oh, fold me close to thy breast. Shelter me safe in that haven of rest. Shelter me safe in that haven of rest. Nearer, still nearer, while life shall last, till saving glory my anchor is cast. Through endless ages, ever to be near my Savior, still nearer to thee. Near my Savior, still nearer to thee. All right. That's it. Dear Father, thank you again for another day. Thank you for this rain. Thank you for replenishing the earth and taking care of our needs through the seasons that you set. You know that everything that in this world that is good, has purpose, has all come from you, Father. Help us, Father, when we complain about the rain, complain about it's too hot, it's too cold. Father, you know the needs of this earth, and thank you for taking care of them. You've blessed us so much, Father, giving us a place to come together to worship with this congregation. Pray, Father, that we'll always continue in your word, strive to be better today than we were yesterday. Strive to have more knowledge than we did yesterday. Always striving to be better, knowing that we strive to be as perfect as Jesus, knowing we will not meet that goal, but Father, that it should always be in our hearts. We pray, Father, as we watch this study tonight, help us to gain some more tools, be able to sit down with people who are curious as to why the world is not as we say it is, as the Bible states it is, that it was created by you, but those that feel as though that the dinosaurs and the bones that are found under the earth prove their false theory of evolution. Help us, Father, to ever be good and kind and patient with those that we're trying to study with. And we pray, Father, that we'll always have those that are willing to do those studies. Be with us, Father, as we go through this hour. Thank you again for Jesus and the blessing that he's been to us in all things. In his name. Amen. It's coming down.
Our worship.
Yeah. I was coming, I probably told you the story. I was coming home from the other. By the time I got to, this was sometime last Sunday. By the time I got to the scales, it started to rain. So I thought, Mike's going to get a nice wet job. So I pulled it in, got a towel out, wiped it down. Didn't have to take it out and wash it. So
Taking up wet rainwater.
yeah, I'm telling you. even shined up my helmet. Get this started here.
In 1822, a medical doctor by the name of Gideon Mantell was in Sussex, England. He was visiting a patient there, and his wife, Mary Ann, had gone with him. And she was walking down the road, and as she walked down the road, she looked down into a pile of rocks. You see there in 1822, the way that they would fill holes or potholes in the road, they would just get rocks from a nearby stone quarry and put them in the holes. When she looked down at this pile of rocks, she saw a fossil in them, an odd fossil, the likes of which she had never seen. Well, knowing that her husband was an amateur fossilologist, an amateur person collecting fossils, she took that back to him and he inspected it. Then he inquired where these rocks had been taken from, went to the stone quarry, and found several more fossils that were odd, fossils the likes of which he had never seen. They were huge teeth, but they were not any kind of teeth that he recognized. He took them to several of his scientific friends, and some of them identified them like as a rhinoceros tooth or something else, but it just did not fit the description of his fossil. After several attempts to identify this fossil, he named whatever creature it was that had this tooth an iguanodon. He named it that because iguana, of course, coming from the lizard, the iguana, don coming from the word tooth. Like if you go to an orthodontist, you're going to someone who does something to your teeth. Iguanodon meaning iguana tooth. This tooth looked just like an iguana, except it was about 20 times bigger. Well, that was in 1822. By 1841, so many dinosaur fossils had been found. Well, I say dinosaur fossils. So many fossils of these huge lizard-like creatures had been found that the British anatomist, Sir Richard Owen, coined the term for these creatures, dinosaurs. The word dinosaur means fearfully great or terribly great. Dinosaur means lizard. So whatever these creatures were, they were fearfully great or large, huge lizards. That was in 1841. That's when our modern knowledge about dinosaurs began to flourish. All before that, there were a few scattered finds of dinosaur bones that people didn't really recognize as such. But in 1822, we first started knowing serious information about dinosaurs. It's funny to me that dinosaurs are so interesting. They're interesting to me, and they're interesting to practically everyone I have discussed dinosaurs with. And if you look at the movies, they're interesting to practically everybody. It seems all that you have to do to make $1 million is make a movie about some type of dinosaur. Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3, good evidence of that. Land Before Time, you can go to Barnes & Nobles and you can look at the book section and you can see books, countless of them, about dinosaurs. You can look all over the internet and see very interesting facts about dinosaurs. They are very interesting. For instance, maybe you knew that the Tyrannosaurus rex had a skull that was about 5.5 feet long, was filled with razor-sharp teeth, some of them 13 inches long, the size of a large banana. It suggested that the Tyrannosaurus rex could bite off a piece of meat that weighed 500 pounds in a single bite. The Argentinosaurus, a huge mammoth of a plant-eating creature that could grow to be 126 feet long, could weigh 110 tons. These creatures were amazing, and they're often used to teach evolution. You see, when you open a book on dinosaurs, almost from the very first line, there is an idea that you are taught, and that is this. Well, the National Geographic, 1993, January, says in its article, no human being has ever seen a live dinosaur. What's the problem with that? Is that true? That no human being has ever seen a live dinosaur? Well, according to the evolutionary scenario, dinosaurs came onto the scene, evolved about 220 million years ago. They ruled the planet for several million years, but died out about 65 million years ago. According to evolution, humans didn't come on the scene until about 3 million years ago. Humans and dinosaurs being separated by 62 million years. You can read magic school bus books that say no human being has ever seen a dinosaur. Just about every piece of dinosaur literature you pick up will suggest that humans and dinosaurs are separated by 60 million years. What's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is this. In the Bible, in Genesis chapter 1, you read that God created all land-living animals on day 6 of creation. He also created Adam and Eve on day 6 of creation. So all land-living animals, which would include dinosaurs, and Adam and Eve were created on the 6th day of creation, and you read that that day is a literal 24-hour period of time by the context. So if you accept the evolutionary idea of humans being separated by from dinosaurs by billions of years, then you have a serious problem with the biblical framework about dinosaurs. Can we show that humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time? I am here in this lesson to suggest to you that we have an abundance, an overwhelming amount of evidence that would prove two ways, scientifically and biblically, that humans and dinosaurs in the past have lived together. Now, what is that going to accomplish for us if we could prove that humans and dinosaurs lived together at one time? Let me read to you a quote from a man by the name of Dr. Philip Kitcher. Dr. Philip Kitcher wrote a book that Stephen Jay Gould said was a brilliant book. And Philip Kitcher said that if you could find evidence that humans and dinosaurs lived together, and read this quote, that would shake the foundations of evolutionary theory. Because, of course, the dinosaurs are supposed to have been long extinct by the time the hominids arrived on the scene. Hominids, of course, referring to humans. Philip Kitcher said if you could find evidence that would put humans with dinosaurs, that would shake the foundation of evolutionary theory. Well, hold on to your seats, friends, because I think we are going to shake those foundations to the ground in this lesson. My coworker and I, Eric Lyons, were privileged to fly out west, and we were going to the Natural Bridges National Monument. At the Natural Bridges National Monument, there is a very special bridge. It's the Kachina Natural Bridge. Now, as you're looking at the picture, you can see this natural bridge, and if you look very closely, you can see me. I'm a little speck right there in the opening of the natural bridge. What's so interesting about the Kachina Natural Bridge? Well, the interesting thing about the Kachina Natural Bridge is that it is covered with several wall carvings that were put there by the Anasazi Indians. The Anasazi Indians carved these things into these walls on the Kachina Natural Bridge before 1500 AD. That's about 330 years before we ever started finding out about dinosaurs in modern times. When we look on the Kachina Natural Bridge, we see several very interesting carvings. One of them is a carving of a human-like figure. Another one of them is a carving of like a mountain goat, a longhorn sheep, something like that. And another one is the carving that you see in the picture. If I were to ask you what that looks like, what would you tell me? Obviously, it looks like one of those huge plant-eating dinosaurs. And yet, this perfectly drawn or carved picture of a huge plant-eating dinosaur was put there hundreds of years before we ever started learning about dinosaurs. How do we know that? Well, the Anasazi Indians did their carvings, and those carvings were covered by a desert varnish. A varnish that came over the carvings over several years. You couldn't fake one of these carvings. In fact, several evolutionists have even suggested to us that there is a very startling resemblance to a dinosaur found in one of the carvings that the Anasazi Indians put on the walls. Well, why would that be startling to an evolutionist? Because they're not expecting to see a perfectly drawn dinosaur from the Anasazi Indians, because we didn't start learning about them until 1822. And what else is interesting about this particular carving? We went up to the park ranger's office and started talking to a young girl there. She said, "Hey, where did you go this morning?" And we had gotten up very early to go to the Natural Bridge. We said, "Oh, we went down to Katina Natural Bridge." She said, "Did you see the weird carving?" And we said, "The weird one? What do you mean?" She said, "The one that looks like a dinosaur." We said, "Oh, yeah, we saw that one." And then in the discussion, we asked her a question. We said, "How do they, the evolutionists, explain it?" And you know what she said? She said, "They don't want to." Well, why don't they want to? Because if it is an accurate picture of a dinosaur, then that means these people would have had to have seen one, or had to have spoken to people who had seen one. Well, she further commented, she said, "Some people think it's a dinosaur, but those people are crazy." Now, wait just a minute. If you took that picture, that cave drawing, well, it's not necessarily a cave, that carving from the side of that bridge, and you showed it to 1,000 third graders and asked them, "What does this creature look like?" Every one of them would tell you exactly what it looks like. It looks like a dinosaur. Why would they tell you that? Because they are crazy. Because they're insane. Because they're ludicrous. Because those third graders are off their rocker. No. Because that's what it looks like. Why would she say that a person who claims that to be a dinosaur would be crazy? Well, because probably every piece of literature that she's ever read said that dinosaurs and humans didn't live together. Every movie that she's ever seen, dinosaurs lived millions of years before humans. Every magazine that she's ever thumbed through probably said dinosaurs and humans were separated by millions of years. And so to go against an entire lifetime's worth of teaching, that would be crazy. But friends, it fits perfectly into the biblical framework. So we thought, well, could we make our case a little stronger? Are there any bones around the area that would match that dinosaur? That dinosaur is a large plant-eating dinosaur that would match the description of an Apatosaurus or a Diplodocus. Are there any bones in the area that would match that dinosaur? So we got into our car and we drove to Blanding, Utah, about 45 minutes away. And in Blanding, Utah, there is a museum called the Dinosaur Museum. And we got out, went into the Dinosaur Museum, and in the Dinosaur Museum, there was a set of bones, a set of hip bone fragments that you are looking at on the screen. My coworker Eric Lyons is standing beside them. Guess what dinosaur those hip bone fragments are from? None other than an Apatosaurus, which matches the description perfectly of the creature that was carved on the Katina Natural Bridge. What do the evolutionists do to explain this? How do they explain it? And I quote, "They don't want to." But that's not all of the evidence that we got. On the contrary, we have a host of more examples that would put humans and dinosaurs together. Let me give you an example of that. In about 1942, a man by the name of Vladimir Jules Booth was riding his horse at the bottom of the El Toro mountain in Acámbaro, Mexico. He looked down and saw some shiny pieces of something, got off of his horse, started digging, and found some pieces of pottery. As he dug up those pieces of pottery, he found several clay figurines. The clay figurines were of several different types of animals. Some of them were types of monkeys, some of them were things like a fat-tailed anteater, but some of them were creatures that match dinosaur descriptions perfectly, that you can see there. Well, what are these creatures? They look just like dinosaurs. Several of the figurines were sent off to be dated by an evolutionist dating system. And they sent back a date, although they didn't send any other figurines that look like dinosaurs. They sent some of the other figurines. And the people who were dating them using the evolutionary dating methods sent back their numbers, and they said, well, these figurines must be about 4,500 years old, or they must be from about 2,500 BC. But then those people were informed that there were some figurines that looked just like dinosaurs in them, and they took back their dates and said, oh, we must have been wrong about the dating. Something must have been wrong. We're taking our dates back. Why? Why would they take the dates back when they found out that some of those creatures looked just like what we know dinosaurs would have been like? Because if a human in 2,500 BC made a figurine, an accurate depiction of a dinosaur, that would mean they had to have seen one, or they had to have known someone who did. Let me give you another example. In about 1930 or so, a man by the name of Dr. Javier Cabrera-Darquea was given a stone. This stone was from the Ica area of Peru. It was carved by Indians there before 1500 AD, from about 500 to 1,000 or 1,500 AD. Interestingly, this stone had some odd creatures on it. So Dr. Javier Cabrera-Darquea decided he was going to start collecting these stones, and in all he found over 10,000 of them. Some of them the size of a football, some of them the size of a softball or baseball, some of them the size of a beanbag that you would sit on in your living room, weighing hundreds of pounds. Many of them had very interesting creatures on them that looked just like what we know dinosaurs look like today, the Triceratops, the Tyrannosaurus rex, the Stegosaurus. But these skeptics go, well, these are fake, these are fraud, these are done by people who already knew what dinosaurs looked like, and they just fake these. Well, hold on just a second. Stories about these stones go back to 1525. Hundreds of years before 1822 when we started digging up fossils. But wait one more second. A man by the name of Stephen Cherkus, who was actually the curator for the dinosaur museum that Eric and I visited in Blaine, Utah, in 1992, he was famous for finding fossilized dinosaur skin. And he came out with a find that suggested that recent fossilized skin impressions of those huge plant-eating dinosaurs showed that some of them had spikes on their backs, and we didn't learn that until 1992. And yet, when you look at Vladimir Jules-Rude's figurines, and you look at the pictures of the Ica stones, you see large plant-eating dinosaurs that we have been painting as smooth-back plant-eating dinosaurs for years, and you see several of them with spikes on their backs, exactly like Cherkus tells us they had, but we didn't learn it until 1992. How in the world, if we were finding these stones in 1930s, did they know to accurately depict huge plant-eating dinosaurs with spikes on their backs? You wouldn't have done that if you were trying to fake them, because it would have shown that you didn't know what you